Good morning, Rabbi Isai. On air, it says. On air. By Nachum Horowitz, thanks for including selected pictures in the summary. It says like this, the subject is more things for the 8-minute daf. So in case you don't know, even Uncle Phil himself, the reason why he's with the shir is because of the 8-minute daf. And because of Uncle Phil, who happens to be here today, and a few others who came over to me and said, I'm only in the shir because of the 8-minute daf. I said, what? So maybe I should restart it. It's like that hook. They watch that 8 minute and they see it's not enough. A lot of people say, we have 8 minutes worth. But it's back. Some people use it for chazara. So thanks for including selected pictures in the summary. Finally, halfway through the Daf Yomi cycle, we finally get to meet Reb Yedidia in person. So this is also, the reason why I'm reading this email is because Be'ezer Hashem once a week, the reason why I restarted, I said, you know what, I'm not going to put that pressure on myself. If I can't do it, I can't do it. But we'll let somebody else do it instead of me. So Reb Yedidia did it on Friday. And Be'ezer Hashem will do it every Friday because Motzei Shabbos is really, really difficult to do. And he did it for the Motzei Shabbos shir. And he's thanking us for now he sees what Rabbi Didi is, a most worthy stand-in. I only know him from the Oyer Merkaz and some clips of various MDY videos. Yosher Koyach. By the way, Yosef Bilik is back. He looks nice and healthy. Shkoyach, are you? All smiley. Here, spotted in the Five Towns. Again, the MDY vehicle. Join MDY. Michael Harbiter. Where is he? He's trying to sell his plane, Rabbi Isai. He has a Cessna 210, and anybody who's interested. I've known Ari Weissman of Passaic, New Jersey for years, and in business with him before I retired. However, it was only last week that I discovered that he's also an MDY brother from another mother. So when he asked for an aerial tour of New York, it was my pleasure to say yes. Basically, he's saying anybody who's an MDY in New York, we give free tours. Look him up. What's his phone number? We'll put it on the screen in big. We need a... Give me some volume, please. Shkoyach. Here we go.
Good morning, Rabbi Isai. Keep your eyes on the road, Arbiter.
You hear the noise. You can see that it's in the air. Thanks for all the recent shout-outs. On vacation in the mountains this week, my son-in-law, Jake, who you met, is here for a few days. I guess he moved to Eretz Yisrael eventually. I don't know. Maybe not. I remember he wanted to. Just to give you a progress report, Jake still arrived with a packed knapsack full of Sfarim and spends hours learning. You can take credit for his steiging and dedication to learning. You're the one who inspired him in the fact that you took time from your busy schedule to call him, guide him. Okay, stays with him till today. He's normal and still spends time with his family, etc., but doesn't waste time on YouTube, etc. His wife ships nachas. That all adds up. The extreme shalom bayis, good job. No need to read it out loud. It's just a nachas report. Yaakov, Yishkoyach, Yaakov Lak. And I'm supposed to remind the Olam that Kahoot is back. Kahoot, if you don't know, it's a digital test. And you're competing against everybody else that's doing Kahoot. So you see how quickly you could, it's a multiple choice chazara, but you could get to, it's competitive. You want to see if you have a good score compared to other people, and you do it quickly. The 8-minute back is that the 8-minute daf is back, and the share links can be found at mdychazara.com. Rabbi Isai, the koilel is sponsored, that may we merit to crown Hashem. The Masechta is sponsored by Lak and Lebovic families. Lakewood, New Jersey, because torah and achdus are the best segula. I was thinking to myself just today, Be'ezer Hashem, unprepared, but I was thinking this Shabbos that we're going to have in America is going to be probably one of the first times that so many different types of people spend the entire Shabbos in a hotel like that. Usually it's all Hasidim, all Litvaks, all modern Orthodox. It's going to be unbelievable. Hundreds of these, hundreds of those, hundreds of that. We'll bring in all sorts. Make sure it's mamish. The UN. The month is sponsored Leilui Nishmat, Avraham, Albert, Levi, Ester, and Gavriel, Beniyaminov, in honor, the Parnas HaChodesh in honor of Eli HaShas, and all them the wires. Leilui Nishmat, Zechrיה ben Moshe, Rochel bas Leah for Refuah, Shelemah b'Korev, Amen. And Leilui Nishmat, Zechrיה bas Yosef, Nishmat should have an aliyah. By Loren, Rav Eli, Loren and Sora, Deetza, Spigelman, in honor of the wedding tonight of their daughter, Tzivi to Nachi Loew. May they build a Beis Neman B'Yisrael. No need to get up and give Mazel Tov. Shkoyach, go back. What? Loren, what time? What? If I find out when is the bus leaving MDY to the Chasana? The 417 goes there. Okay. Brain intact, unleash your full potential, should be Zechut and Achzak Kedusha, tremendous success in all my endeavors, Omein. By Yair Kugel, it should be a credit to Rabbi Yair Kugel, Cincinnati, Ohio. Shkoyach, Rabbi Yair. Yosef ben Chaya Sora, for all this chusin that come from supporting Limit Torah. That's the art of the month. And MDY headquartered coffee corner and beverage. We have milk, and we have hot cocoa, and we have 2 unbelievable coffee machines. The best of the best, touch button lattes. Vladislav Zakir over for Shelemah, for Shiro, Sora, Basher Shana, Boisa. Here we go. Today is Daf Chav Daled, and we're holding the last words in Daf Chav Gimel Amud Beis. And this is what we learned yesterday. We finished off the sugya that according to everybody, Mashikona Eved Kona Rabbi, that a Eved cannot make a kinyan without his master. Ain't kinyan Eved below Rabbi. So if you give something to your Eved, the master acquires it immediately. One Mandarma holds that there's a way around it by saying Al Menashe the Rabbi Rishus Boy. And Remeir argues. Remeir says it doesn't work. Because as soon as you acquire it, your master acquires it, you can't make conditions and tanoim with that. It's like, it's part of the master. So Reb Elchanan comes around and he says, okay, it's a little different. Al Menashe Teitzi Boy Lecherus. Over here, he's not really giving the money to the Eved to go out. What he's doing is he's giving it to him to give it to the master. There's only one thing you can do with this money. It's not yours on condition that the master doesn't have anything to do with it. Because over there, in the first case, you're excluding the master, but you're giving it to the Eved 100%. Over here, he's not even giving it to the Eved 100%. He's taking away from his giving. He's saying, I'm only giving it to you for this use. So that could work. And Remeir says even that doesn't work. And what we're going to see right now is that we have a little bit of a problem because in a case, very similar case, where a person says, this is yours, he tells a wife, this is yours on condition that your husband has nothing to do with it. And we said that an Eved and a woman have the same halachas in terms of the kinyan of the master and the husband. So if a person says to a wife, I'm giving you this money that you do X, Y, Z with it, and your husband has nothing to do with it, Remeir says it works. So that's a contradiction. Remeir says if you try to exclude the master, it doesn't work. So how come when it comes to the husband, it does work? That's the Gemara's question. So let's see inside. Virami the Rabbanon, Virami the Remeir ad the Remeir, Virami the Rabbanon, last line on the Chav Gimel Amud Beis. We have a contradiction between Remeir and Rabbanon. I just quoted Remeir here because I didn't have place to put Rabbanon, but Rabbanon say the opposite. It does work. Over here, Remeir says it does work, and Chacham say it doesn't work. The Sanyam, Enisha Poidam Meiser Sheini Beloy Choymesh. So it used to be when we started speaking about Trumas and Meisers, people used to fall asleep. And now people just get disgusted. Like, could you not show us that chart again? We know about Peh. I will show it. Of course I'm going to show it. Here. You never saw this one, did you, Jonathan? So, on years 1, 2, 4, 5. 1, 2, 4, 5. Those are the years that after you finish giving your truma and your meiser, you take meiser sheni and you basically give it to yourself. You get to use it yourself. We're actually going to see today in the Gemara, it's not so much yours. It might be according to one sheet, it's 100% hegdish. The Rebbeinu Shalom, he gives you permission to use it. Nafkemina, can you use those apples to be mekadesh a woman? Are they yours? Maybe you could just put it in your mouth and eat it. We're going to see that. But we're going to learn a couple of extra halachas that we didn't really focus on yet in Shas. And that is that Meiser Sheni, of course, if it gets very heavy and it's too much for you to carry up to Yerushalayim, you can only eat the Meiser Sheni, this 10% they give to yourself in Yerushalayim. So let's say you live in Tzfat and you have a big farm and your produce is 3 tons. So what are you going to do? So you transfer your 3 tons into cash. So let's say it's $1,000, $1,000. You take the produce and you take cash, and the Kedusha of the produce goes into the cash. Now the cash turns into Meiser Sheni. The produce becomes, from purple goes back to red, you're able to eat it. Now the cash turns into purple, and this cash you bring up to Yerushalayim. So that's that. Here she is, she takes the money out of her pocketbook, and she transfers the Kedusha into the money. The payros go out, and this becomes whatever the lashon is. Okay. As a side note, nothing to do with the sugya, I just figured as a favor to the Olam, to Jonathan, just to explain that when you redeem this meiser and you do it yourself, if you're the owner of the meiser, you must bring a chaimesh. A chaimesh means 20%. But in English, it means 25%. Why? So just to explain, you have to give extra, right, here. So let's say the fruit is worth, I'm going to show you everything, it's going to be very, very clear. $1,000 is divided into 4 25s. So what you have to give is 25%. You have to give $25, $250, whatever it is. So you add that. See the line? You have 1, 2, 3, 4. That's how much money you have. You have 4 quarters, let's say. So your chaimesh, now your penalty, so to speak, because it's not a penalty. We call it it's a mitzvah. Call it whatever you want.
It's halacha in the Torah.
Correct. Not a penalty. He's right. It's not a penalty. Your opportunity, your added obligation because you transferred the money is 25%. So you take another quarter, you put it in. But in Gemara language, the way they used to, it's milagav and milabar. So the way the Gemara views it, they view the total amount at the end. So over here you have 5 quarters because you gave 1 extra quarter, so it's 5. Now you look at the total amount, you have 125. So 125, 1/5 of that is what you said. So we call it 25, they call it 20%. Because they look at the total amount. All 5 quarters together, and you view that, how much is that? That's 20% of what you have total. That's called milagav, we call it milabar. It's the same thing. Now let's continue. A convenience fee. What do the money changers call it? Conversion fee. It's convenience fee. So you don't have to take the 3 tons up. Here, Rabbi Isa, here it is. Here she has $4 worth of apples. That's the peacock hat. It's a bird's view from the top. Bird's eye view. Here, it's worth 4. The joke didn't come yet, actually. And here's the 5th one. Here's the 5th one, and so now the Kedusha went from the apples to the money, and that's this. Fine. Here's the pasuk. V'imgal yigal ish mimaisroi. What does mimaisroi mean? This only applies. This halacha they have to give an extra 5th if you own it. But if you're a friend and you're redeeming it for a friend, you don't have to. And what if you're a wife? Do you have to give that extra chaimish or not? Says the Gemara, this is what we're talking about now. The Sanya, top of Chavdal Amud Aleph, Ein Isha Poida Meiser Sheni B'loi Chaimish. Now, she must give the extra amount. Why? She's married to him. She's like Ishta Kigufa. She Kibala, says Rashi. She's like her husband. Shimon Elazar Mishum Rebbe Meir says Rebbe Meir Isha Poida Meiser Sheni B'loi Chaimish. No, the wife doesn't have to give the extra 20%, 25%. Hey Chidami, what's the case? Let's explain it. If the husband owns the apples, he owns the money. So what is she doing? She's just a shliach. So, of course, if a person sends a shliach to take the meiser sheni and convert it into money and everything, it's him. It's him himself, so he has to give a 5th. How come the Tanakama over here says you don't have to give a 5th? She has money from Nichsim Elog. She brought into the marriage. She has her own bank account when she got married. It's not the husband's. Maybe could benefit from it. Different halachas in the Nichsim Elog. But right now she has cash. And the husband owns the fruit. Isha marachman v'lo isha. So if we go back to the pasuk, ish. Rashi learns very interestingly. I would have learned ish v'lo isha, that all men in the world are chayv and meiser sheni and not women. That's taisvus. Rashi learns different. Rashi learns ish and not your wife. Okay? So, if it's her money and it's her husband's fruit, then she's not chayiv at all. El lav ki gavno, daklo acher mona v'omer lo, must be talking about our case that we're talking about from yesterday, that a friend came along and said, here, take this, I see you want to eat this fruit. I'm giving you this money. I want you to do meiser with this money and do not give a chaimish. Like we had yesterday the case where somebody gives his kid money, here's $100,000 to buy an apartment. On condition you don't give meiser from it. Don't give tzedakah from it. And l'chayr, most poskim say it's okay. You could do something like that. Ask the Gemara, v'ipcha shamano luhu. Over here, Reb Meir says the condition works. And the money goes where? It stays by the woman. And by us, here, let's take a look again at this chart. Over here, Reb Meir holds, check, V. It's good. I could give a woman meiser, I could give her money to be paid the meiser sheni on condition she doesn't pay the chaimish. And Chacham say no. Chacham say it goes to the husband. The husband, you can't make a deal with a wife. Just like you can't make a deal with a eved, you can't make a deal with a wife. No conditions. It goes straight. But Reb Meir is the one who said the entire time that you can't make a deal with the eved. And now all of a sudden he says you could make a deal with the wife. So the Gemara, Omar Abaya Epoch. We must flip this around. Take a look at the chart just for 1 second. Epoch. Reb Meir is going to have to say that the deal doesn't work. So everything lines up. Chachamim, there's a check mark by Chachamim. They say it does work by a woman. We're not switching. No, that a woman is different or not different. Epoch. Rav Omar loylam loy tepoch. So I asked around in Koilel, and they told me that it's true. Abaya is the one throughout HaShas that says epoch. That's a shita throughout. It's a certain mahalach in learning. Epoch. And Rav's mahalach is no. I don't like changes. It's the way it is. Let's figure it out. Although there's at least one place that it's the epoch of the epoch. Fine. Rav Omar loylam loy tepoch. V'acha b'meiser. Over here we're talking about meiser sheni da'asa mibei noshaskinon. We're talking about meiser sheni that came to her. It's hers. She brings it into the marriage. So this meiser that she brings in, as Rashi says, it's shulchan gavaya. It comes from a higher table, and you cannot be mekadesh a woman with it. It's not his. So therefore, since it's not the meiser sheni of the husband, whose money is she using to redeem this meiser sheni? She's using her husband's money, but that's somebody else's money. That's Rochel has a bunch of fruit, and she's using Reuven's money to redeem her fruit. That kind of redemption does not require a chaimish. The only time you require a chaimish is when it's your fruit, but it's the woman's fruit using the husband's money. It doesn't work like that. That's why in this case, Reb Meir says, you potter from a chaimish. Look at the top of the page, top of the Amud. No, that's chacham. Because we're talking about a case that it's her fruit, she brings into the marriage, and she's stealing, using her husband's credit card to be paid it. So it's somebody else. You don't have to do that. Chacham argue. The husband has no ownership of it. Rabbanan say no. Just like the husband could take this meiser sheni and be mekadesh a second wife with it or whatever he wants to do with it. So if she uses his money to be paid to his meiser sheni, you have to give a chayvish. And therefore requires a chayvish. Rabbi say a brand new sugya. If you just joined us today for the very first time, or if you're spacing out until now, here's a brand new sugya. The Torah says, "V'chiyaka ish." V'chiyaka ish is ein avdoi, is ein amasoi. V'shichasa, you destroyed his eye. Lachav she'ishachenu tachas einai. You send him free. Following pasuk, v'mshein avdoi. and if you destroy the Eved's tooth, Shen Vayin we call it. They go out free. Now, there's the Gemara. If you just read the pasuk, like the people that just learn Torah, they don't have a Gemara. It says Ayin and Shein and the story. What about if I chop off the guy's finger? Does he go out lecheres? What if I chop off his nose? The answer is yes. He goes out lecheres. How do we know that? From a limud, we see. What does Shen and Ayin have in common? That they're very visible. You destroy it. There's no function anymore. A guy can't chew with that tooth. He's blind from that eye. Goes out lecheres. Now, if you take off his finger, same thing. It's visible. He has no usage with that finger. He goes out lecheres. So says the Gemara, and all 24 tips of the Ivarim, 10 fingers, 10 toes, the nose, bris, Bishleim Hashem V'ayin Ksivi. It says, Mefurish in the Torah. So how do you know the Rosh Ivarim? Just a quick gra. The gra says, why does the Torah say Shem V'ayin if there's other things? Gra says beautiful. Why did Chum become an Eved? Because he was over on Vayar, he saw his father's Ever, Vayagid, and he told his brothers. So it's the eye and the tooth. And that's why they became Avadim. He got the curse, became an Eved. And if you take an Eved, and the Eved suffers that thing in the eye and the tooth, so he had his kapara, so to speak. It was in that thing that he had his kapara. So the Torah says he could go out. Mechuper. Min Allah. Dumya de Shem V'ayin, huh? Yeah, anything that's Rosh Ivarim. Then we're going to see. Yeah. Mefurish in the Gemara, yeah. More than that. His hearing. Bishleim Shem V'ayin. So I got to tell you, there's a guy that was trying to buy his wife a birthday present. His first year marriage. And he wanted to know what to get her. So he asks his friend, he says, how much do you spend on a birthday present? So his friend says, So the guy goes, what, 4,000? 400? $4? So the guy says, sugar, $4 for a birthday present? If that was my wife, she'd break your teeth. Bishleim Hashem V'ayin.
Exactly, no doubt.
Happens to be this is Yedida Kramer's favorite joke. Yeah. Heard it 20 times from him. You can't say it anymore in the Shever Brachas speeches. Bishleim Hashem V'ayin Ksivi. Fed was good. Letter looking at Fed. Okay. I saw you laughing. I saw without alle Lundish. He tried with the tefillin not to laugh, but Bishleim Hashem V'ayin Ksivi Ela Rosh Ivarim Min Olam. So great. It says Mefurish in the Torah Shem V'ayin, but how do we know all the other limbs? Dum Yid Shem V'ayin. Says Rashi, this is what we call a mamatzinu. Like we find here, we do over there. They can regenerate and they're visible. As the Gemara of we have a klal in the Torah. If the Torah says it once, then the Torah is telling us, take this idea, use it the whole Torah. But if the Torah tells it twice, 3 times, then why is the Torah saying it twice or 3 times? Because the Torah is telling us only these two things have this halacha and nowhere else. Says Rashi, if you look, usually Rashi doesn't say this, but over here it says 2 lines from the bottom, the Torah should have said 1 and you learned the whole Torah from it. So why did the Torah have to say 2? So the way to get out of it is to say that each one has a special halacha. That's why the Torah didn't say 1. You ask me, how come the Torah didn't say it once? I can't say it once because I wouldn't know certain things. Memela had to say it twice. And if I had to say it twice, then I could learn from it. By the way, the Chiddush says that the Rosh Tevis Asher is a Naim, Shinayim, Yudayim, V'Raglayim. That's what we're talking about. The eyes, nose, all the Rosh Ivarim. He says if a person appreciates what he has, he realizes that he has all his fingers, all his toes. He's able to walk, he's able to carry things, and he has his eyesight. and he's able to eat, then he's good. We have to count our blessings, literally. I would think that these are baby teeth. That if a master knocks out a young child's baby tooth, then you go out, cause Rachmana ayin. The Torah says no, it has to be something that's going to be damaged forever. So it's very interesting. L'chayra, I don't know, I didn't look it up. But if a person, an adult, a 50-year-old, his tooth gets knocked out, and then you find out he has a third set of teeth, there's something like that. It's happened. So l'chayra won't go out. No, because the Torah says it has to be something that's permanent. That's what I think. I don't know. He said, Noam doesn't agree. Okay, so I shouldn't say it. Huh?
It's a general rule. An exceptional person. Correct.
No. What's the general rule? If I could see without an eye, if the guy's what? That's what you're saying. I don't believe that. The Mefurish Gemara not like you. It's not. The Gemara tells us that if it's a baby tooth, it's not a problem. You don't just generalize. Oh, all teeth.
Because everyone who loses a baby tooth has teeth. Not 99.9% people lose second teeth. They'll get a third one.
I hear. I think differently. I'm allowed to argue with you, so that's why we're not going to say it. Don't pass him based on me. If you have a slave and he grows a third tooth, don't tell him that he has to work for you. Okay, fine. Does anybody agree with me in this room? I'm the only one. Uncle Phil agrees with me. Shkoyach. He says Poshet. He says Poshet that way. Great. Kissim, most of the room doesn't agree with me. He says Machlaikes. We have to see what it is. Zog the Gemara.
We love you, Eli.
Because Rachmana Ayin, Yosef, that I would edit. We just brought down the level of the shir. Because Rachmana Ayin, have amino mayin shenivro imoy, afkol shenivro imoy. Oh, now if it only said ayin, and now say, okay, but teeth have to be teeth that are adult teeth, and Memela just says ayin, and I know everything. No. Have amino mayin shenivro imoy. A human being is born with an eye, as we'll see later in the Gemara. Before, we don't need a raya for that, but the Gemara talks about if a master pokes out an eye right by childbirth, during childbirth. A person not born with a shen. So maybe I would think that if we knock out a tooth, it's like knocking off a nail or something. It's not something that he was born with, so he doesn't go out to freedom. That's why I need these two psukim. And again, if I have these two psukim, and each one has a tzrichusa, then I can learn out of those two psukim for the rest of the Ivarim. Now I have a source for all Ivarim. Anything, the ear, whatever it is. Ve'ima. Oh, so now our boys say we're going to go into klal pratu klal. And again, usually when you say klal pratu klal, it's like I said zdei achuz the other day. Somebody said, you said zdei achuz, I went to sleep. But we're going to do klal pratu klal. We're going to change it here. It's going to be different than you ever saw before in your life. Here we go. Klal upratu klal. You don't see? Oh, here. Klal pratu klal. It's very, very simple. Sponsors. He's busy with that. Okay. Before we do klal pratu. In honor of my uncle, Reb Elchanan Pressman, and as a schus for a year filled with mazel bracha and parnasa b'rebach, and sponsored by Greg Haber, bracha parnasa atzlacha brios for his family, Reb Eli, and all MD1, everyone doing the daf. Yishkoyach. Basically, in the Shloisha Sermidah Shatorah Nidresh, very, very simple. Generalization, specification, generalization. Or there's something else called riboy, the art school calls it amplification, limitation, amplification. Okay? It sounds the same, it's almost the same, and they operate very similar, and they're using the same words, it's just slightly different outcome, very slight. Generalization means, in this case, it says in the Pasuk Kiyaka, that the master hit his slave. He caused damage. It doesn't say what. So we understand everything. A broken bone, it could be up here, down there. It could be a leg and a cast, and nobody will ever see that damage. It could be a finger. It could be an eye. It could be a tooth. We don't know. It could be bekitzer, any damage possible. Klal. Then the Torah limits it. The Torah says no. Shen ayin. It's just these two. Now look what happened to those 5 things in the first list. They become an X. The Torah says only these 2. But then when the Torah does another klal, so basically we limit many things, but we add stuff. So klal means everything, prat means very, very limited, then klal expands it somewhat, but we're left with some of the prat. We have to understand. So what we do is we say it has to be similar to the prat. Anything that's very similar to the prat, it doesn't have to be an eye and a tooth. It can be anything like an eye and a tooth. It could be the nose, something that's visible, and you lose the usage. But what about what you see over there, this hand going like this? That we're going to talk about. That's a hand that shrivels up, but later on it grows back. That's like the least damage possible, because this human being is going to get his usage out of that hand. For now, it's shriveled, it's worthless, and then it pops back up. There's even a shaila l'halach if you're allowed to wear tefillin on a hand like that, if it's considered a hand, etc. So now let's see inside. I think it's very, very pashut.
The second klal broadens the limitation.
The second klal broadens the limitation. Thank you very much. It's similar to the first klal, but we have to take into account the prat. Now, the only difference between a riboy miut and a riboy, if we take these exact words, kiyak and shenayin lachavshi, it's the same words, but instead of putting the green word klal, we put a word riboy, and it's an amplification instead of a generalization. Call it whatever you want. The only thing is that when it comes to the prat, we're going to limit one item only, versus limiting many that don't resemble a shem v'ayin. We're going to limit just one. That's the whole difference. So it's not that scary, klal or prat or klal. It's mamish geshmak now. For the rest of HaShas, it's the same idea. We had it just the other day. I think we had it Motzei Shabbos. The problem with Motzei Shabbos was that Yoshi was already tired and he went shlufen. Somebody, I'm not going to say who, didn't allow him to work any longer than 1 o'clock in the morning. It didn't make any sense to me. He should have been working through the night, but he had to go to sleep. Fine. Huh? The birthday present. Oh no, sorry. Let's start again. Klal. Here we go. You see, the klal means everything. We could go back if you want to see it back. Kiyaka means every type of injury, even hidden injuries. Shen v'ayin prat. But then the Torah immediately says it has to be a tooth and an eye. Prat. Every time we talk about ayin, I talk about Rabbi Zaks from Chevron, the Reb Hillel Zaks. He's the grandchild of the Chavetz Chaim. So he had a glass eye, and it was everybody, all the Bachrim knew. So he's once fahering a Bachar to come to the yeshiva, and when the faher is over, he looks at the Bachar and says, "It's the right eye. It's the right eye." Because apparently the boy was like the whole time like, "Which eye is it?" Fine. Klal prat ein beklal mashav prat. So anytime you have a klal prat, so then the Torah is telling you it has to be like this limitation. Shem v'ayin in midachrin Allah. It has to be exactly these two. Oh, but then the Torah goes lachavshi shalcheno. The word lachavshi here. So prat would mean only the eye and the tooth. But then the Torah says another klal, lachavshi, the whole word is extra because he's saying yishalchenu, let him loose. So the word lachavshi is extra. Chazav kolal, klal upratu klal, iyat. So now that you have a klal in the front, you have a sandwich, 2 klalim on both sides, prat in the middle. Iyat adara l'keina prat. Then it's not completely limited to the Shema, but it gives us guidelines. It narrows it down. What's the word you use now?
Broadens the limitation.
It broadens the limitation. Ma prat mefurish mum shebagolui ve'enam chayzer. Just like the prat is mefurish, it's an eye. It's right there in front of everybody's face. Everybody sees it. Ve'enam chayzerim. Once a person is blind, Rochel al it doesn't heal. Avkol. If a slave is to go out with a mum, it must be a mum. Mumim shebagolui ve'enam chayzer. Like the tip of a finger, it's a mum. It's not coming back. It's not going to go back. You go out. Ima prat mefurish mum shebagolui bottom melachtoi ve'enam chayzer. Maybe it must mean that it's bottom and melachta. In other words, it's at a commission. The eye is at a commission. And it'll never come back. Maybe it has to be that kind of mum, that it's completely at a commission. But we know something else. If a guy, a master, grabs his slave's beard and he dislocated a bone in the beard, in the jaw, now who needs a jaw? It's not like mimlachta, it's not bottle. You don't need that bone. Maybe it's not even visible. Why? Says Gemara, because we're switching, says Rashi, we're switching now from a klal, a prato klal, to a riboy, miot, riboy. The riboy says everything. Yeah, I did it too fast. The riboy says, just like a klal, whatever you injure, the guy goes to l'cheres. And then the miot limits it to eye and a tooth. Ribuyu. Oh, sorry, I thought it was going to do it. If it's everything, literally everything, if we forget the miot part, if we go to the riboy, it should be any type of injury. In other words, even if you hit the guy and the master hits the slave on his hand and it shriveled up, causing major damage, a temporary major damage, so even if it comes back, that should also be considered an injury that it goes free. And that can be, you call if it's not permanent, he doesn't go out l'cheres. So now we have a riboy, miot, and a riboy, and the miot only comes to take out one item. What's the one item? The furthest thing from a blind eye. What is that? A hand that's going to grow back, or any limb that's going to have a complete recovery, and there's no permanent damage. So that's a riboy, miot, and riboy. It includes every organ that's damaged and it's permanent, but it excludes the miot, just includes one type of injury that'll have a complete recovery. Torah Rabbanan, new sugya. Bekulam eved yotze b'hem l'cheirus v'tzorch get shichur. We have a machlokes tanoim. When the Torah says he goes out b'shem v'ayin, does the Torah mean that he literally goes out b'shem v'ayin? You knock the guy's tooth out, he walks away, no documents, nothing. Reb Shimon says no. Tzorch get shichur. The Reb Shimon, you need an entire document. You're mechuyev to give him that document, but he won't be completely free. He won't be a complete Jew and marry Israel until you give him that document. Rebbe Meir Oimer ain't tzarich. Rebbe Loza Oimer tzarich. Rebbe Tarfon Oimer ain't tzarich. Rebbe Kiva Oimer tzarich. Because we have big machlokes tan Oimer. Hamachriim lefnei chacham Oimer, those who how do you say achra? Isn't that there's a better word? No. They decided. Okay. They were machriya. They maybe cited what?
Adjudicate. There's no better word than nicer.
The machriya.
Sure.
They decide no, but machriya would also mean like they tip the scale to one, right? So it's not decided. Okay, I thought there might be a better word. We'll get it in the email, Beis Hashem. Nirin divrei tarfim b'shem v'ayin. Says the Gemara. What? Nirin divrei tarfim b'shem v'ayin. Torah ziktaloi. That makes a lot of sense, says the Gemara. When the Torah says specifically shem v'ayin, so the Torah is telling you go out and you don't have to get a get shichur. But Reb Akiva, and Reb Akiva says that you do need a get b'shari varim. Why? Because this is a penalty from Chachamim. Knasu, Krayka. We just went through a whole 10 minutes of riboy, miot, riboy, klal, prat, klal, and we came out at the end that every aver goes l'cheiros. Ela hoyelu midrash Chachamim. Since Chachamim darshan this riboy, miot, riboy. So Memela, says Taisus, what do you mean, Chachamim? What? Every time Chacham darshan, you have to do this, you have to do that. It's a deraisa, the darshaning in the pasuk, what it is. Says Taisus, you're right. It is a deraisa. But we're concerned that you might bump into your slave in the marketplace. One day you're walking down the street, come here, Tony, take my stuff. But I went out, it's too bad. No. So, not the tooth not. But I went out, I don't have a finger. So Meila, Chachamim were geyser to make on this Dairaisa a get shechur. My time in the Reb Shimon. So why does Reb Shimon say you need to get shechur? Yoliv shiluach miisha. Here's the pasuk. Lachav shishalcheno tachaseinu. That's by a slave. V'shilcha mebeisai is by a get. Huh? Ma isha b'shtar afev nami b'shtar. So. We learned that you need to start. If it said Yishalchenu Chavshi, but over here, look, it says Chavshi first. First he's free. Yishalchenu, he goes. And the reason why the Torah says the extra word, Yishalchenu, says Rashi, to teach us that all the other Ivarim, you go out without a get. Torah Rabbanon. Hiko al einoi v'sima. He knocked his eye and he became blind. He didn't take his eye out. He blinded him, but his eye is still there. Al oznoi v'chersha. He whacked his ear and made him deaf. Evid yotzei b'hem l'cheros. That's enough to go out l'cheros. You don't need him to literally break his tooth or rip his ear off. As long as he made him deaf, as long as he made him blind. Keneged einoi v'einei roya. What if he goes to a wall? Creates a huge sound. He detonates a bomb right in front of him, and it causes him to lose his eyesight. Says Rashi, how did he lose his eyesight? From the shock. It's not a physical thing, it's a shock. I looked this up, and it says there's something called postpartum vision syndrome, that a person that was in a war could literally lose his eyesight. I don't know completely, but major eyesight issues, because it's all nerves in the brain, and if a person has brain damage from his traumatic experience, it causes damage. Like the famous Maisa where there was a guy in the war that the Nazi put a gun to his head and he pulled the trigger and nothing came out, and then like the next day his hair was white. You never no Maisa. I can tell you Maisa b'didi haba uvda. My father Zolzang Gesund Stark. He had to go to America with I had a sister that was born in the 7th month. Surgeries, the whole thing. So we just made Aliyah, and he couldn't take us. So we stayed in Eretz Yisrael for 3 months, and we stayed by uncle. And he took my sister, and when he came back, he came back with a white beard. It was completely from the tsar, from the Agmas Nefesh that he had, dealing with this kid and all the surgery, complete white. He was young, he was in his 30s, whatever. Boom. So there's such a thing. It changes the physique or whatever it is. Omar Rav Shemin Rav Ashi, remember the color lav klumu. So you're telling me, so again, if he creates a shock, and he created that he's deaf through sound. Slave doesn't go out. Omar Rav Shemin Rav Ashi, why doesn't he go out? Didn't he cause damage here? Remember the color lav klumu. You're telling me that to create sound is nothing. A chicken that put its head inside a glass container, a glass cup or whatever, and he made a sound. He screamed, and that created and it broke. Mishalem nezik shalem. V'am Rav Yosef, Rav Yosef Amri Beirav, Sus shetzonaf v'chamor shenar. He neighed, he brayed, whatever the words are. V'shavru kelim v'zoich habayis. Their sound created. I just want to show you this. First of all, this is called Tzroirois Mishalem Nezik Shalom. It's not. I'm not going to make it into Deetza HaShas, but there's a teaser for Baba Kama, which is the next Masechta. Machlokes if Tzroirois Mishalem Nezik Shalom and Chatzi Nezik. Exactly. You know Chatzi Nezik, but it's Machlokes, and we're going very good. And Chacham don't say that. Chacham say, look at this, Sumchos Gevaldik. Okay, we'll change it. Tzroirois Mishalem Chatzi Nezik. But over here it says, if you look closely, it says Mishalem Chatzi Nezik. That's like Chacham, says Rashi. Okay, and then let me just show you this real quickly. Yoshi worked on it. It was a quicker one, this one, but we need some volume. And then this is a donkey, and if you look at the rooster, his head is inside a glass. And then she screams. Okay, Givaldi. Okay. It was quick and rudimentary, but it gets the job done. Fine. So, says, now you understand. Says the Gemara, a tremendous thing here. A human being is a bardas. When a person has a trauma, there are people that live life, their entire life, they had a traumatic experience when they were younger, and they take it throughout their whole life. It causes damage, but it's their doing. They decided to live with that trauma, not faulting them, but a human being could go through the same exact trauma as the other guy, and nothing. He brushes it off. Okay, we go weiter. We're going to look forward. Some people live with trauma, and the trauma dictates where they go. But it's them, the Gemara says. He's creating the trauma to himself. The same guy doesn't have to be blind. He could take that sound, nothing. You see, like a woman, she'll jump 4 feet, and the guy goes, It's the same sound. It's how you deal with it. Huh?
Very famous trauma therapist now.
Yeah.
Trauma isn't what happens to you, it's how you define what happens to you.
Trauma isn't what happened to you, it's how you define what happened to you. 100%. The Gemara says it here. So who did it? Not the guy that made the loud sound, but the guy that heard the sound. If you cause your friend, you scare him, like me and Reb Menson, a different time, no time now. So you potter Medina, you can't take him to Bezin, but you chay Medina Shomayim. You should, it's the right thing to do. You should pay him. If you made a loud noise and you made him deaf, obviously it's not a physical deafness. If the noise was physical, like you put a jet engine by his ear and he became deaf, of course he chay. But we're talking about Grama bin Zaken. What's that lacha? Rabbi Isa, here it is. Another thing, Grama bin Zaken, potter. Oh, it's a grama. You caused it to yourself, the Gemara says. We're talking about in such a situation that the trauma caused it, not the physical. However, we grab onto a person and he did the same thing. The chersha, and he made him deaf. Chayiv. Why? Because he did a physical thing. Very interesting. I'll just say quickly because we're late. There's a Masechet Sofrim says that Eliezer, Ebed Avram, was actually oig, and he was the slave of Avraham Avinu, and Avraham Avinu yelled at him, and his tooth fell out. But he didn't go lecherus because he didn't do physical. He didn't mean to do it, and he didn't. We'll see. So, and Avraham went afterwards, and he took it. He didn't hit him. He just screamed, and his tooth fell out. But Avraham took the tooth, and he made a bed out of it. That's how large the tooth was. Torah Rabbanon. We have to go, even though it's 8:05. We have to go 2 more minutes here. He whacked his eye and made his eye weak. In other words, let's say it went from 100% vision to 20%. Al-Shina, even another da. He loosened his tooth, he still has a tooth. So it depends. If he can still use his eye, he can get around sort of, then it's okay. Then he doesn't go out. Vimlav, but if he can't see anything, he's completely legally blind, even though he has 20% vision. And we had another brisa very similar. If his eyesight was only at 20%, let's say, and he went and he finished off the 20%, he made him 100% blind. His tooth was shaking, vipila, and he knocked it out. If he was able to use it beforehand and now he can't, he goes out lecherus. So now the question is, that's literally the same thing. Right? If you create a situation where you can no longer use it, then he goes out. And if you don't create that situation, he doesn't go out. That if you take even a damaged eye and you damage it more, you make it completely useless, then he goes out. So then what's the difference? Says the Gemara with Tzricha, I need both brides. In the beginning, he started off with seeing 100%. And now he's at 20%. But over here in the second brayz, he started out with a 20% vision. Maybe you shouldn't punish him that much. You shouldn't lose his slave. It was a terrible vision to begin with. No. And if you say the second brayz, because he made him from 80% blind to 100% blind. But in the first one, he didn't completely make him blind. Yes, you're right. He can't see anymore, but he's not completely blind. He could still see something, maybe some light, whatever. Tzricha. Rabbi Isai. Have a wonderful day.